Four college students were asleep in a quiet college town. Hours later, they'd become the victims of one of the most shocking murders in modern American history. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the dark, reconstructing a case that literally left the entire nation breathless. You see, the killer left almost zero evidence. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, no confession, just shadows. But here's the thing. The person accused of committing these murders, he wasn't your typical criminal. He was actually studying how criminals think. His name was Bryan Kohberger. The sheer, terrifying irony of this whole case is that Kohberger was a PhD student in criminology. I mean, he spent his days analyzing the minds of serial killers, studying the intricacies of crime scenes, and learning exactly how offenders get caught. And honestly, he almost pulled off the perfect crime. He slipped in and out of a packed off-campus house in the dead of night, leaving absolute devastation in his wake. But despite all of his academic training and meticulous planning, he made one fatal, microscopic error. But, before we get to how he was finally caught, we really have to look at the timeline. What actually happened inside 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022? How did a house full of young people, just living their normal college lives, become an absolute nightmare so quickly? Section 1. The night everything changed. A terrifying timeline. Okay, so the window for this horrific event is terrifyingly narrow. It's like a ticking clock. Best friends Kaylee and Maddie get home from a food truck at 1:56 a.m. Around 4 a.m., Xana gets a DoorDash delivery. She's awake, probably just scrolling TikTok. And yet, somewhere right in that incredibly tight window between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., the killer strikes. In a matter of mere minutes, a masked figure navigates a 3-story house in the pitch dark, takes 4 lives with a military-style K-bar knife, and just vanishes. By 4:20 a.m., surveillance cameras catch a white vehicle speeding away from the neighborhood. Now, perhaps the most chilling detail of that entire night came from right inside the house. 2 roommates actually survived. One of them, Dylan, opened her second-floor bedroom door after hearing some noises, and she saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask with prominent, bushy eyebrows. He didn't speak. He just walked right past her and out the sliding glass door. Dylan locked herself in her room, frozen in a trauma response that left her entirely paralyzed with fear, which tragically delayed the 911 call for hours. Section 2. The hunt for a suspect. Digital breadcrumbs. I want you to put yourself in the investigator's shoes for a second. For 47 agonizing days, there was just this massive void of public information. The media absolutely exploded. TikTok sleuths were pointing fingers at innocent ex-boyfriends, professors, totally random bystanders. Everyone was asking, was the killer a stalker, a friend, a serial predator? But behind the scenes, far away from all that internet noise, investigators were quietly sifting through the terrifying unknowns, following a digital trail. And what's really interesting here is how the digital footprint paints a picture of a calculated, months-long obsession. Investigators pulled neighborhood surveillance footage and identified a white Hyundai Elantra circling the house at 3:30 a.m., trying to park in a blind spot, and then speeding away at 4:20. Then came the cell phone data. The suspect's phone was tracked near the King Road house 12 separate times in the months leading up to the murders, usually late at night. Then, on the night of the murders, his phone goes completely dark right when the killings happen, only to reconnect miles south later. And, chillingly, the data shows his phone pinged near the house one more time at 9 a.m. the very next morning. See, investigators weren't looking for a face. They were looking for patterns. So, a public alert went out for a white Elantra. Just days later, campus police at nearby Washington State University, which is just a 15-minute drive away, spotted one matching the exact description. And suddenly, that phantom in the mask had a name. Section 3. The criminology student. A dark obsession. So the crucial point we have to understand is that this wasn't an amateur. This was a man who practically treated murder as an academic exercise. Bryan Kohberger was a 28-year-old PhD student in criminology at WSU. He had earned his master's degree studying under Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a renowned expert who actually wrote the biography of the BTK serial killer. He had even applied for an internship with the local Pullman Police Department. We're talking about a man deeply, deeply embedded in the study of criminal behavior. In fact, months before the murders, Kohberger posted a survey on Reddit for a university research project. He was asking former offenders questions like, why did you choose that victim or target over others? And detail your thoughts, emotions, and actions from the beginning to the end of the crime commission process. He was actively studying the psychological traits and emotional decision-making of criminals committing horrific acts. It's one of those details that feels straight out of a psychological thriller, doesn't it? Section 4. The fatal DNA mistake. Unraveling the perfect crime. In the darkness and sheer chaos of the attack, the killer unknowingly left a single piece of evidence behind on the bed, right next to Maddie Mogen's body, a tan leather Kohberger knife sheath. Finding this sheath was the ultimate turning point. It was the crack in the armor that finally broke the case wide open for investigators. Let's break down the exact forensic steps that ruined his master plan. First, investigators found a microscopic spot of unknown male DNA on the button snap of that sheath. When it didn't match the national database, they turned to investigative genetic genealogy, building a family tree from public DNA databases. They literally tracked Kohberger all the way across the country to his parents' house in Pennsylvania, where a stealth team collected DNA from the family's trash. And bingo, it was a direct match to his father. When they finally arrested Kohberger in a midnight SWAT raid and took a direct DNA swab, the results were just staggering. The DNA on the knife sheath was 5.37 octillion times more likely to belong to Bryan Kohberger than anyone else in the general population. I mean, to put that into perspective, that's a number with 27 zeros. He was dead to rights. Section 5. The shocking guilty plea. An unexpected conclusion. Now, just a month and a half out from what was absolutely supposed to be the trial of the decade, a legal bombshell dropped. The defense had literally tried everything. They tried to suppress evidence, they argued his cell phone was just out driving late while he was stargazing, and they even tried to have the death penalty removed due to an autism diagnosis. But when those motions failed, Kohberger completely pivoted. He stood up in court and pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder. By accepting a plea deal and explicitly admitting guilt, Kohberger shocked the nation. He did it in exchange for one specific thing, taking the death penalty off the table. He was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. No drawn-out trial, no dramatic cross-examinations, just over. But this sudden conclusion deeply, deeply divided the victims' families. Some felt relief, thankful to avoid a highly traumatizing trial that would force them to relive the worst night of their lives in front of a barrage of cameras. It was a step toward healing. But others, they were absolutely devastated and outraged. For them, the trial was their only chance to force the evidence into the light, to see exactly what the prosecution had uncovered, and most importantly, to hear exactly why this happened. Section 6. The questions that remain. The haunting why. Because of that plea deal, there are so many dark corners of this story we still can't see into. Why this specific house? Was Maddie the primary target, based on his alleged Instagram activity and the fact that he went straight to the 3rd floor first? Why walk right past Dylan Mortensen and leave 2 roommates completely unharmed? Did he pack a kill kit with extra clothes to avoid leaving trace evidence in his car? This brilliantly illustrates the tragic reality of this case. Without a trial, the answers to these chilling questions remain securely locked away inside the killer's mind. 4 college students full of incredible promise, Kaylee, Maddie, Zana, and Ethan, had their lives stolen in the dark. One killer, a man who obsessively studied the very crimes he committed, was caught by a tiny slip of a button snap. Bryan Kohberger confessed. He's locked away for the rest of his life. The mystery is legally solved, yet one crucial, agonizing piece of the puzzle remains missing. Why? What could possibly drive a human being to commit such an atrocity? We may never know. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I'll see you next time.